Real Country 1430 AM and 107.3 FM WRDN. Good morning. I'm Brian Winnekins, and joining us this morning, Durand-Arkansaw School Superintendent Greg Doverspike, as we talk about last week's Durand-Arkansaw School Board meeting. And Mr. Doverspike, again, thank you for joining us as always. There's a pretty cool presentation from the Pepin County Sheriff's Department on the K-9 unit, and it appears that the board is interested in maybe helping out with that. Tell us about that.
Yeah, Chief Deputy Raisler had contacted me probably in February and kind of said, what are the district's interest in being a part of this? There's value. And I said, I agree. I said, we had a drug dog in the community where I was a principal. I found a lot of value in it, in the K-9 unit, just from locker searches, but also just other things. So I brought it up to the board in February during my report, kind of just giving them an FYI, and that Matt and Darren were scheduled to present in March, and they came, and the board has an interest in donating. So I'm kind of trying to feel out and look to what other communities have done in the past towards that. But, I think the board, and I agree with them, there's a lot of reason to have this. The drug problem is everywhere. And so if you have a dog in your community, it just helps you combat that much better. Kind of like they talked about in the presentation, some of our neighboring counties have them, but, 45 minutes away at any given time. And that kind of defeats the purpose. It's not like you can, sit there and wait for an hour. So I think there's a lot of value. What the district decides to do, I can't, the board will make that decision in April, but I think the board has an interest in contributing, and I support that.
There's also that the board asked, and even Chief Deputy Raisler even mentioned that the dog is going to be more than just for coming into the building and searching for drugs. They want to be able to have the dog just come to not only the high school and middle school, but even the grade school, just to have the kids interact with the dog and be able to pet him or her, and really have a positive experience with law enforcement, which I think is just as valuable.
Yeah, you're exactly right, Brian. And there's therapy dogs are around, and there's science to prove, evidence to prove that those types of animals, whether it be a therapy dog or what have you, similar to this, have some relaxing value for students, and teaches responsibility. And I can just say, as a dog owner at home, when our dog's around, it helps the family. It's a calming influence. And in that case, yeah, it'll be in the building, so it'll be not only a calming influence, but I think it equates to a little bit further, which is kind of what we've seen with our SRO program as well, which is, the kids have positive interaction with police, whether that be the sheriff's department or Brandon or Stan when he comes, and it's a positive. It's good for those for students to see that they are trusted individuals, and they're somebody they can reach out to for help, and they're not always there for negative things. So I think you're right. I think there's equally, if not more, advantage to just having it kind of come around in the therapy aspect and the interaction with the sheriff's department as there is for the drug search issue. So I think there's a lot of reasons why the program is a great program for our community, for our county. And it's for that reason that I'm glad to hear that the board wants to support it.
Talking with Durand-Arkansaw School Superintendent Greg Doverspike this morning about the school board meeting from last week. Well, Greg, the remodeling, I guess, kind of continues at the high school this time, though we're getting new lockers in the 1995 edition. You are just going around the building here to replace all the lockers. Tell us about that.
Yeah, it's kind of that perpetual maintenance thing. And you try to stay on top of that stuff so it doesn't all of a sudden come up to be a big price tag. So kind of on the rotation right now is to replace the lockers in the 95 edition. They're original, so they're 25, 26 years old, which is a great useful life. We replaced the lockers down the freshman hall and upstairs a couple years ago. So it's kind of time to push down there. And so we put out to bid the two companies that the last time. This time, Marshfield Book and Station. Their bid, is just under 69,000 and change, which per locker, the cost hasn't really gone up the last couple, which is kind of surprising when you look at costs seem to be going up everywhere else. It was nice to see that the cost stayed pretty consistent per locker between the bid we got a couple years ago and the bid we received for this. So yeah, that project will start after here, and it'll be ready for the kids.
All right, and again, we continue to chat with Durand-Arkansaw School Superintendent Greg Doverspike. Meanwhile, another project going on, and we're almost done, and that's the softball fields. And I know that there's some things with that still have to be done at the fields. The field itself is, I guess, completed. The grass is going to be growing and all that good stuff. But then there's all the other amenities, dugouts, and all of that. That's the last part of this project, right?
Yeah, we have bid pack 2 out, which includes the dugouts and the concession stand, press box area. And we're working through some aspects with that. Durand Builders came out as kind of the low bid for right now. So we awarded them the general contract bid, but there's some aspects that we're going to go back to the table with them and the designer of the project, kind of the engineer over at POB that we've been working with on the football field in this project, and their architectural firm, just to try to find a way to make it a little bit more manageable. We're having some conversations related to the foundation in particular. The foundation right now is rather beefy, and we believe we can get that a little bit more reasonable to the project, which would then drive the cost down, which only makes sense. So those are the conversations that we're having ongoing. And now that we have a general contractor on board, we can have those conversations a little bit easier with kind of their building experience versus when we had them before. It was a lot of hypotheticals, but now we can bring a contractor to the table to help us in those conversations. And I expect a resolution on that here very shortly. In fact, I've been working on it yesterday, today, and look like we're going to set up a meeting here early next week to talk that over with all the parties involved.
Meanwhile, with the softball field and spring sports, we are going to be having spring sports, and it also looks well. Also, too, you're not going to really have limitations on the number of fans.
No, we're not. It's a conversation that we've been having. Amongst the Dunn St. Croix Conference in particular. We try to all be consistent amongst the conference, just to make it easier for everybody. And kind of our thought process on it right now is your attendance for your spring events typically are relatively small anyway. So it just would cover that, along with the fact that it's outside and you have space to spread out. Obviously, there's a lot more space involved in a baseball, softball game than there is in a gymnasium. You're confined to walls, where this you're not necessarily confined. And a lot of people bring lawn chairs anyway and spread out. So we're going to go without spectator numbers to start. The only sport we would consider right now putting it in might be track, but right now we're not. The expectation is that they're going to allow more than 4 teams in a track meet. So we're going to have to monitor, how many fans we get for 4, and then try to figure out, well, how many would we have if there's 6? And then if we get the numbers up a little too high, we might put something in. But I think our goal is to, track can be spread out again. Our goal is to try to minimize the numbers and, start the process of returning to what might become the new normal or the old normal. I think it's, obviously the numbers in the county are looking good. The number of individuals vaccinated continue to get higher. So I think there's a lot of possibility that hopefully we're starting to see the light at the end of the tunnel.
Meanwhile, with the vaccinations, 41% of the staff has been vaccinated now?
Yeah, 41% of our staff are fully vaccinated. I've had both shots, and a lot of credit, obviously, Katie Walsh, our school nurse, has done a tremendous job. We've worked closely with Angela and the crew up at Advent Health. We've done some work with Charlie Heike down at Heike Pharmacy, and obviously quite a bit of work with Heidi and Jesse Schroth up at and Kaylee Theismann up at the county health department. So a lot of credit goes to all those individuals for all their hard work to make this go. And the rest of our staff that are interested in a shot, we're going to have about 80 to 85% of our staff are electing to get the vaccination. We'll be fully vaccinated here April 1st, and April 9th is when they'll get their second shot. So, we're looking really good. I know they're opening it up to some new individuals here coming up on March 25th, and I expect that number to go. And I think the waiting point that everybody in education is for right now, at least K-12, is as we're waiting to hear more research on when the vaccination is cleared for and eligible for kids. Right now the Pfizer is eligible for those over 16. The Moderna and the Johnson & Johnson are not yet, but there's research ongoing in those about I heard yesterday going all the way down to age 2. So we're hoping that research comes out soon. It looks promising right now. And then hopefully we can get the kids vaccinated and kind of put this behind us and wait for the next big event.
And that next big event could be starting school early in August. And the board's going to talk more about that here at the next meeting.
Yeah, they are. There's a possibility, and I got to do a little bit more additional research on it. But it looks like there's a possibility we could start early. And so the topic was broached with the board. The board said, yeah, go ahead and prepare a calendar, which I kind of already had one basically prepared before the meeting, but I didn't finish it because I wasn't sure what they were going to do. So now I'll finish that up a little bit and make sure I have all the days counted correctly and all the quarters spread out properly. And the information at the bottom matches up to the information on the second page, which is the narrative, matches up to the colored squares on the top page. And then get some approval with DPI and post it and all that information. Yeah, they're talking about maybe starting in August, which gets us out by Memorial Day, keeps a spring break for us and keeps that week of Thanksgiving off, which I think are two really great opportunities. As I look outside right now, the sun is shining, and I think, when the NCAA tournament starts today, there's probably a lot of people that would prefer to be outside enjoying the weather or watching basketball than sitting in a building. So I think, the opportunity to get a spring break and the opportunity to have that deer hunting time off, which we know is a huge family tradition in this area, are positive, and getting out by Memorial Day. I know that's another thing. So it'll be nice to that Friday before Memorial Day, kind of put a rest of the year and send the kids out and say, hey, you got a long weekend. And by the way, I'll see you next year.
How long do you think it'll be before DPI or before you'd actually have it where you're going to be able to announce it? Is it going to be by next month, or are we looking more toward May?
I have heard the DPI will turn that around relatively quickly. Now that's part of the research process is conversations with DPI to confirm that that's what happens. And if that's what happens, it's a foregone conclusion that they will approve it. Then I would probably be comfortable releasing the calendar after the board would approve it, assuming we still can do it. Like I said, I have some additional research to do on it by the April board meeting.
All right. Well, Mr. Doverspike, as always, thanks for joining us.
Thank you very much.
Durand-Arkansaw School Superintendent Greg Doverspike, you're listening to WRDN.